This video is all about the SaveGame object in Unreal Engine 4, and I'm going to show how I use them and implement them, and also explain how they work. To begin with, the SaveGame blueprint. Even though it is a blueprint class, you can imagine this as the folder that saves all the slots and variables. If I want variables or a certain slot, I have to cast to this blueprint to get access to them. However, saving and loading actually takes place in the game instance. This is because it is the first thing that is loaded, and is even carried over in multiple levels. Let's start with saving. To begin with, it tries to load a save. This is so you're able to overwrite a save even if the save is being used. If one doesn't exist, the cast fails and you move on to create a save. This is important as if you try to create a save on a use slot, it won't do anything. You just need to update it, which is why I do this. Then, with either option, I set the variable separately. This is because the variables I'm saving will be different depending on the save. So I have to make sure the variable is the correct one, which varies depending on if it's a new save or an overwrite. The load game is quite simple. First, it gets the save slot that it needs to load, and then casts to the save game. If there isn't a save game, then it must be a new save, which changes the boolean and sets the player level to 1. I use this variable in the third person blueprint, which I will get to later on. If there is a save in the slot, then it will set all the variables in the game instance to the respective variables saved in the slot. Now for how it knows which slot it needs to save or load in. For this, I use the UI I made in the last video. Let's start with the save menu. This is actually rather simple. It sets the variable depending on the button that is pressed. Then it casts to the game instance and sets the variable inside of that to the variable that was just set. Now you might realize a lot of this could be cut. The way it should work is 1 cast to instance or 3 without the set, just like this. However, for some reason, after trying multiple ways, this is the only way that works. I don't know if it's because I'm inexperienced or if Real does something different than what I'm thinking, but this is the only way it works. Anyway, it then casts again, same reason as before, and it loads the game and removes and changes the widget. The reason it loads is that it's trying to load a character, not save it. But you might notice I called it save slots. That's because the main thing this UI does is set the save slot value. It then removes the widget and opens up the world load, which I talked about in the last video. And with that, this is everything important this UI does. The delete UI is extremely simple. Similar to the save slot UI, it chooses a slot depending on the button that is pressed. It then uses the delete game in slot node to delete the save. That's pretty much it. I did this so if someone wanted to make a new character from scratch, they could. Now for when you finally choose a save and load a world, there is a little more the game has to do. When the save is loaded, the character doesn't automatically get updated with it, so instead I have to use the event begin play node in the character blueprint. Basically, when the character is spawned, it casts to the game instance, as that is where the variables that were loaded were set. Here is where the new save boolean from the load save comes into play. If true, then the program stops here, as all it would need to do is load the default variables, which are already set up in this blueprint. If not, it gets the said variables from the game instance to set to the corresponding variables in this character blueprint. Then it will level up the character, as that handles any of the stats that need changing that aren't saved. Although, as I was writing the script and looking over the blueprint, I can now see a massive problem. What needs to be changed is getting rid of the max HP and XP in the load portion. Due to the fact they are in both, the max HP and XP are getting multiplied by the level, on top of starting at the level they should be from the save. Also, a quick note while I'm editing this, I'm going to demonstrate what I mean with some math down below if you're interested. The end of production is when I started to feel my game didn't have much to it, so I wanted to add something the player could strive towards. Unfortunately, I didn't have much time left, so it had to be something really simple. During this time, I was talking to one of my friends when he recommended having to unlock new areas when you level up. This worked really well with the saves, as it meant that I could call upon the player's stats before the character was loaded. This means I could have a decent sense of progression and a goal to strive towards. I really like the idea, so I made it work by using the world load UI I talked about in the previous video. It casts to the game instance to check the player's level of the save loaded. If it's over a certain threshold, the world will be unlocked, and you can press it / load the world. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.